Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Elmwood Park Mayor and Council for April 16th, 2020 to order at 7:01 p.m. On roll call, council members Fasolo.
Here.
Golubek.
Here.
Ingui.
Here.
Pellegrin, absent. Wetchler.
Here.
Council President Balistrary, absent. Mayor Coletti.
Here.
We have a quorum, and just for the record, I will note that council members Fasolo and Wetchler have called into the meeting via teleconference.
Thank you, Erin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Erin has told us that you might see the dais is light of a few council people, but they are with us via the telephone. At this moment, I'd like for everyone, please stand, and we'll do our prayer and flag salute. But before we do that, I'd like to take a moment and just of silence and pray for the victims of this virus and the ones that have been taken from us. Thank you. Oh God, our Father, we ask you to bless our meeting, which we entrust to your fatherly care and protection. Please remove all selfishness and prejudice from our hearts and implant therein a keen sense of justice and a greater love for you and our neighbors. Amen. Whereas chapter 231, but before we do that, we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of the State of New Jersey require at the commencement of every meeting a statement of compliance be read by the presiding officer. Now, therefore, be advised that that meeting requirement for this meeting has been met by publishing a special meeting notice in the Record in the Herald News and by posting such notice in the office of the Borough Clerk as well as in a public place within the municipal building, and by notifying interested citizens. Said notice was posted on January 8th, 2020. An additional notice reflecting the time changes was transmitted on April 14th, 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is being videotaped and will be on Cablevision, channel 77 on Monday at 3 p.m. and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. The video will also be available on the borough's website, www.elmwoodparknewjersey.us. Ms. Delaney.
Please note that due to precautionary measures to help prevent the spread of COVID-19, we have a conference call set up for the public to call as a means of participating in tonight's meeting. For the public's information and record, the public's line will be muted except for when we open the meeting up for scheduled public hearings and public comment. We thank you in advance for your patience during the operation of tonight's meeting. Under the approval of minutes this evening, we have the September 13, 2018 special public meeting, October 4th, 2018 work session meeting, October 11th, 2018 work session and executive session meetings, December 6th, 2018 work session and executive session meetings, December 13th, 2018 special work session meeting and executive session meetings, and April 2nd, 2020 special public meeting and work session and executive session meetings.
May I have a motion on the minutes, please?
So moved.
First by Golubek, second by Wetchler.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Council members Fasolo.
I'd like to recuse on all the work in executive session minutes for 2018, and then yes to the rest.
Golubek.
Yes.
Ingui.
I will also recuse on everything from 2018 and yes to all the April 2nd, 2020.
Pellegrin absent. Wetchler.
I would like to recuse myself from September 2018 to December 13, 2018, and yes to 2020.
Thank you. Moving on to ordinances being introduced on first reading. Introduced ordinance number 20-11, Resolution R-172-20 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Establishing a No Left Turn at the Intersections of Patterson Avenue and River Drive," and amending Chapter 7 of the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park titled Traffic, more specifically Section 7-23 titled Turn Prohibition, be passed and adopted on first reading, and be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, May 21st, 2020, at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter as same can be heard, at which time any persons interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and she is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
May I have a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
So moved.
First by Ingwe, second by Fasolo.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Council members Fasolo,
Yes.
Golubek,
Yes.
Ingwe,
Yes.
Pellegrin absent, Wetchler,
Yes.
Balistrary absent, motion carries. Resolution R-173-20, introduced ordinance number 20-12 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Amending Chapter 7 of the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park titled Traffic, more specifically Section 7-10.2 titled Stopping or Standing Prohibited on Certain Streets on Certain Days at Certain Times," be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, May 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as same can be heard, at which time any persons interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and she is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
May I have a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
First by Fasolo, second by Ingwe.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
On roll call, council members Fasolo,
Yes.
Golubek,
Yes.
Ingwe,
Yes.
Pellegrin absent, Wetchler,
Yes.
Council President Balistrary absent, motion carries. Resolution R-174-20, introduced ordinance number 20-13 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the Borough of Elmwood Park in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 11 entitled Housing, more specifically Article 11-4 entitled Illegal Apartments of the Code of the Borough by revoking said section and replacing same with this proposed ordinance, be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, May 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as same can be heard, at which time any persons interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and she is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
May I have a motion to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
Discussion? I'd like to say a few words on this ordinance. Ladies and gentlemen, this ordinance here puts some teeth, heavy teeth that we needed in our housing ordinance regarding illegal apartments. Before this, we did have an ordinance that wasn't as strengthful as this, and I think this is going to help in two ways. It's going to reduce illegal dwellings where there's children involved, taxing our school system at about $20,000 per student, and also eliminating some cars off of the street. Mike, you care to comment on this a little bit? I know you had a lot to say about it.
Yes, Mayor. Kudos to the building construction official, Tony Ambrosio, Steve Kochek, our fire official. We all got together on this and made it a priority, and they put a lot of time and effort into this. So I just wanted to point that out, Mayor.
Yes, no. Nice job. Keep up the good work, guys. Call the roll, please.
Mayor, I also like to commend everybody who worked on this. I think it's great that it'll ease the burden that's being put on our schools right now for illegal dwelling.
Thank you, Mr. Fasolo. Anybody else care to speak? If not, call the roll, please.
Okay, we had a first by Fasolo, second by Wetchler. On roll call, council members Fasolo,
Yes.
Golubek,
Yes.
Ingwe,
Yes.
Pellegrin, absent Wetchler.
Yes.
Council President Balistrary, absent. Motion carries. Resolution R-175-20, introduced ordinance number 20-14 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the Borough of Elmwood Park in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 4 entitled Licensing and Business Regulation, more specifically Article 4-39.2 entitled Definitions, and Article 4-39.4 entitled Applications for Permit Fees Term Regulation, and Article 4-39.5 entitled Location, Placement, and Conditions of the Code of the Borough by amending and replacing certain language contained in those sections and replacing same with the proposed language in this proposed ordinance. Be passed and adopted on first reading, and be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, May 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter, same can be heard, at which time any persons interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and she is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
May I have a motion to introduce the ordinance?
So
So
moved.
moved.
First by Wetchler, second by Fasolo.
Any discussion? Call the,
I'd also like to commend Chief Foligno on this. This is a very good ordinance.
okay, thank you, Mr. Fasolo. Anybody else care to speak? If not, call the roll, please.
Council members Fasolo,
Yes.
Golubek,
Yes.
Ingwe,
Yes.
Pellegrin, absent Wetchler.
Yes.
Council President Balistrary, absent. Motion carries. Resolution R-176-20, introduced ordinance number 20-15 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the Borough of Elmwood Park, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing the Code of the Borough, more specifically Chapter 7, titled Traffic, be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, May 21st, 2020, at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter, same can be heard, at which time any persons interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and she is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
May I have a motion on the introduction?
So moved.
So moved.
So moved.
First by Ingwe, second by Fasolo.
Any discussion? I'd like to say a few words on this ordinance. This is another happy moment here for Elmwood Park. Our parking now within a stop sign will be reduced from 50 to 20 feet, except in the school zones. This change will allow us to pick up very valuable parking spaces across the town. Kudos to the council, and once again, our police chief for getting a lot of kudos tonight, Mr. Foligno.
Take all I can get.
They're well earned. Call the roll, please.
Council members Fasolo,
Yes.
Golubek,
Yes.
Ingwe,
Yes.
Pellegrin, absent Wetchler.
Yes.
Council President Balistrary, absent. Motion carries. Now for ordinances being introduced on second and final reading. Resolution R-177-20, introduced ordinance number 20-10 on second reading, whereas a public notice has been given by the Borough Clerk that an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the Borough of Elmwood Park, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing the Code of the Borough, Chapter 22 entitled Streets and Sidewalks, more specifically Section 22-3 entitled Curbs and Sidewalks, more specifically subsection 22-3.2 entitled Maintenance and Repairs, so as to include certain language clarifying the obligation and responsibilities set forth therein under certain special circumstances. Whereas said ordinances was introduced and passed at a meeting held on Thursday, March 19, 2020, and that further consideration of this ordinance would be taken up at this meeting. And whereas all persons interested in said ordinance were given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Elmwood Park that an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the Borough of Elmwood Park, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing the Code of the Borough, Chapter 22, entitled streets and sidewalks, more specifically section 22-3 entitled curbs and sidewalks, more specifically subsection 22-3.2 entitled maintenance and repairs so as to include certain language clarifying the obligation and responsibility set forth therein under certain special circumstances. Pass on final reading.
May I have a motion to open for a public hearing?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Delaney?
Okay, if everyone could just bear with me while I unmute the lines. Should anyone like to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only?
All participants are muted. All participants are unmuted.
Would anyone from the audience like to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only at this time?
Jeffrey Freitag, 35 Tillman Drive, Homewood Park. This is referencing Resolution 177-20, Ordinance 20-10. As I recall from prior meetings, it was discussed that it would also apply to other entities, not as the borough, but public service, electric and gas, or any other utilities, or anyone who was going to open the road. That as a result of this type of utility work, where they're going to tear something up or whatever, that a review of curbing by a borough-assigned representative would be completed, and if needed, curbing would be replaced at the expense of the borough. The ordinance does not state this. Is there any comment?
You're saying the ordinance doesn't stipulate that, Jeff?
No, the only thing the ordinance does, it says is if the borough is repaid. 419, 418.
Sal, would you like to respond to that? Well, you got to get the microphone. Hold on, Jeff.
Sure.
Under actually contract and law, you can't impose a public utility the obligation to change or repair and replace a curb. That's unless they actually do the damage while they're actually doing work as a public utility.
Was that your question, Jeff?
Well, my question refers to the fact that when the road is dug up, will be repaid as a result of the utility work, that a review of the curbing by a borough-assigned representative would be completed, and if needed, curbing would be replaced at the expense of the borough. That's what I said.
Right.
So I'm talking about not the fact that public service or any other utility or any other contractor or such would be required. They'd only be, if the only thing that would be required is that the borough would evaluate the curbs, because effectively they're doing the same thing. Would not be at the expense of public service, but would be at the expense of the borough.
Yeah, Mr. Freitag, not for anything, but usually anytime I would think, and it's been my experience, anytime that there is any complete replacement of any roadway, it's not done by any public utility. But if there is repairs being done to a particular roadway, the engineer is always aware of that being done, and I'm sure they're reviewing it, or somebody's reviewing it in
I
town.
don't think we're answering his question.
I don't understand.
Yeah, Jeff, what is your point here exactly? Are you saying that the ordinance...
First of all, I sent it in prior. If you read it, very well worded, and it says that if there's a road opening or whatever public service does, or any other utility, private contractor, or whatever, that requires repaving, that the adjacent curbing to the repaving would be reviewed by a borough-assigned representative, that could be the engineer, Scott Cars, or whomever you might assign.
Right.
That if curbing is required based upon this particular ordinance, it would be replaced at the expense of the borough.
Correct.
My street was repaved, it was due to public service, plenty of curbs that are sitting up on the right of way, plenty of them were not replaced, but I'm talking about anything.
Well,
If there's a road, such as is being done right now, over by Fenwick in that area,
Yeah.
on the other side of the parkway, that they would evaluate the curb, and I'm talking about the town, And if the curb needs to be replaced, based upon this particular ordinance, that it would be replaced.
Correct.
In other words, you'd have to work, when the road is done, an engineer or somebody would have to develop some sort of report or a borough official and evaluate whether the curb needs to be replaced.
Okay, and that's exactly,
That was spoken about.
right, and that's exactly what the ordinance is amended.
I think what Mr. Freitag's saying. Mr. Freitag, I think what you're saying is, the way the ordinance reads, it's only if the borough's doing the work. You're saying it should read, if a utility is doing it, the borough should still inspect it and make the repairs if necessary at that time. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Well, in that case, we should change the language, because I agree with Mr. Freitag in that case.
Well, but
Mayor-
anytime, I'm sorry, not for anything, anytime that there is any kind of improvement or repairs done, the borough is involved, one way or another. Many times what happens is if there's a roadway being done, if they do part of it, then eventually it gets all repaved. It's the borough who's doing it. It makes no difference whether it's initially done, the work done by a public utility. It's only the borough who is responsible in redoing a whole street. And that's when it becomes into effect. It goes into effect at the time that the borough replaces the pavement and repaves. That's the only time a whole street is repaved. Only boroughs can repave a whole street, not a utility company.
Well, they could, if
Mayor,
we,
Mayor, this is Joe Dombrowski, 274 Lincoln Avenue. If I may just jump on to that. We have situations where PSE&G has, we just paved the street, and then all of a sudden, a year from now, we have up to 5 years where PSE&G has to replace the piping or whatever. They have to repave the street curb to curb.
right.
I think what Mr. Freitag is trying to say is that in that case, this ordinance doesn't
Spell it out?
take that into consideration that curb should be done, because there's streets that have been paved within 5 years that we didn't have this order, that could eventually be paved in the next year or two, that would fall under that 5-year plan.
Going forward, the essence of amending this ordinance was to state that any road, like our attorney has said, that is going to be repaved will have curb consideration, whether it is being forced upon us by public service due to their pipe work, or if it's on our own will. That we just want to make it clear for ourselves and future councils that the curbing, once it reaches a certain percentage of defacement, that it will be replaced. Now, I asked, Daniel, you want to weigh in on this?
I do. I understand Mr. Freitag's point completely. So obviously last year, whatever was paved by PSE&G is last year, and they've done a significant amount of work this year that I would imagine they'll get to paving at some point. We still have to get the square yardage of all the streets to see how we can apply the credits like equally. But in that process, when we get to the list of which streets are we going to ask pave curb to curb and which ones we'll skip, there's no problem with the borough engineer or the DPW director to go look at curbs in those zones. However, PSE&G picks the contractor that paves those streets. A, they may have no interest in doing that. B, if the town is cutting the check, let's say we're doing curbing on Roosevelt because it's shot and we want to do the whole street and the contractor agrees to it, I don't know how we get around. We have to probably bid the project because I would imagine it would be over a certain amount. So, I mean, I get the whole intent behind the ordinance. I always felt like we have the discretion to look at curbs in any circumstance at any point, and we don't have to put that in writing for us to be guided that way. That can simply be a practice of the borough. But to kind of get to the bottom line, when we pick which streets we would like public service to do curb to curb, The borough can do an analysis of those curbs, no problem. It gets tricky after that point, and we may not be able to go anywhere from that point based on those things I outlined. But I don't think the ordinance you could add the language, or we could just do it. And I don't see a problem with us just doing it.
So you're happy with the language of the ordinance?
I don't think anyone disagrees with if we send Scott or the engineer out to look at these curbs on these blocks where we will ask public service to pave. He can come back with a report. Where we go from there is a whole nother animal.
We're going to have to do, because we agreed upon this.
There's no problem with it. Just because the exact phrase isn't in there, I think we can just say when public service does a road, we'll look at the curbs. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay. All right, so between our town attorney and almost an attorney, Daniel, I feel pretty confident that the language is okay, and we'll move forward with that. Is that an agreement? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, where are we?
Would anyone else from the public like to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only?
If not, I'll close the public portion, and we'll need a motion on the ordinance.
Okay, at this time, I am going to again mute the lines, and when I do so, the council members that have called in will need to unmute themselves.
All participants are muted, and they can unmute themselves.
Okay, the council members who've called in can unmute themselves. We'll continue with the meeting.
Motion on the ordinance.
First by Ingwe, second by Wetchler.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
On roll call, council members Fasolo,
Yes.
Golubek,
Yes.
Ingwe,
Yes.
Pellegrin absent, Wetchler,
Yes.
Council President Balistrary absent. Motion carries. For tonight's consent agenda, we have the following resolutions. R-178-20, approval of payroll. R-179-20, approval of bills list. R-180-20, authorized purchase of equipment, Whitmer Public Safety Group, Inc., Fire Department. R-181-20, authorized purchase of police surveillance, Goosetown Communications. R-182-20, authorized purchase of wheel load weighers, Loadometer Corporation, Police Department. R-183-20, authorized change order, Fire Department Mini Pumper, Absolute Fire Protection Co. R-184-20, authorized release of performance cash and surety bonds. R-185-20, authorized current estimate number 3 and final, emergency generator, recreation building, Manor 2 Electric, Inc. R-186-20, authorized payment for crossing guards. R-187-20, authorized monthly payment for cleaning services, Recreation Department, Open Works. R-188-20, approved sick/vacation buyback request. R-189-20, award of bid fiscal year 2018 New Jersey DOT Municipal Aid Program, Mola Boulevard, Yearway Construction, Inc. R-190-20, authorized emergency repair services, Colonelli Bros, Inc. R-191-20, authorized emergency purchase, sewer improvements, pumping services, Inc. R-192-20, appoint gym supervisor, Gabriella Yelatopa, Recreation Department. R-193-20, authorize the execution of IT professional consulting contract, Intrep Solutions, LLC. R-194-20, authorized payment, ServPro. R-195-20, authorized additional funding, special legal counsel, Police Department at Prezesi, McDermott, Mashrow, Murphy, PC. R-196-20, authorized not to exceed amount, special legal counsel at Prezesi, McDermott, Mashrow, Murphy, PC. R-197-20, resolution approving Elmwood Park Fire Department stipend program, first quarter compensation. R-198-20, resolution to refund overpayment. R-199-20, corrective resolution to purchase radio equipment, Northeast Communications Fire Department. R-200-20, authorizing the submission of a TWA application to the state DEP, River Drive Development. R-201-20, appointment to Board of Health. R-202-20, approve handicap parking space, Martha Avenue. R-203-20, rescind resolution R-155-20, resolution to refund overpayment, and R-204-20, resolution to approve the consent agenda.
May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Second.
First by Fasolo, second by Ingwe.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Council members Fasolo,
Yes.
Golubek,
Yes.
Ingwe,
I have to recuse on R-178-20, Aliana English check. Also on 181-20, 182-20, 186-20, 195-20, and yes for the rest.
Pellegrin, absent. Wetchler,
Yes, I'd like to recuse myself on R-178-20, Harry Wexler's check, and yes to the rest.
Council President Balistrary, absent. Motion carries. Continuing on, we have two bingo applications in front of us this evening for Our Lady of Mount Virgin for May 15, 2020 and October 16, 2020.
Motion on these applications, please.
Second.
So moved.
First by Ingwe, second by Golubek.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Call the roll.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Lastly, under departmental reports, we have the Board of Health meeting minutes from February 10th, 2020.
May I have a motion to accept and file the report?
So moved.
So moved.
Any
First by Wetchler, second by Fasolo.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Council members Fasolo,
Yes.
Golubek,
Yes.
Ingwe,
Yes.
Pellegrin, absent. Wetchler,
Yes.
Council President Balistrary, absent. Motion carries. Mayor, this concludes my portion of the meeting this evening.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in an attempt to keep the amount of time we're spending together down, we are going to forego our council reports and the mayor's report, but I have two exceptions. I always like to have a meeting with a feel-good moment, and I'm going to ask Ms. Ingwe to report on the bunny rabbit.
Thank you, Mayor. On Saturday, the Elma Park Fire Department and the Easter Bunny made their way through town. It was fabulous. Adults enjoyed it as much as the children. I received so many messages from very appreciative residents, and I want to thank the fire department for their time on that, and also, again, Donna Puglisi for helping us out with the costume.
Thank you, and I want to congratulate you on spearheading and following through. It was, I didn't actually get to see past my home, but it was exciting from a distance I saw with the children. So it's a feel-good moment when we so desperately need it.
We needed it.
And I also would like, I think it's imperative that we still focus on things that we have to, that come before us each and every day. And one of that items are our census, and I'd like Daniel, if you care to make a report on that, Daniel, who's spearheading it, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor. Keep it as brief as possible. As everyone knows, every 10 years, America counts its people. It's the census, and we're in the middle of the 2020 census. It's important that Elmwood Park is accurately counted because our schools and our actual borough get money based on how many people live here. In 2010, 69% of Elmwood Park actually self-responded online or by mail. The other 31% had people knock on their doors the entire year until they were willing to basically say how many people live in the house. All answers are confidential, and it's for the federal government to see how much money to send to the school system and to the towns, in part. We, as a committee, with the mayor, myself, our police chief, and Ms. Barbara Vandenhagen are working to promote this. We have $6,000 from Bergen County. Everyone in Elmwood Park will be getting a mailer in 2 weeks asking them why they have not filled out their census, and to those who have, thanking them. Also, we have the electronic sign on the boulevard that is updated weekly with our percentage response in Elmwood Park. 10 days ago it was 47.9. It's now 50.9 as of Monday, and I checked today, it's 51.8%. So to anyone listening who has not filled out the census, please do, so we can use federal funds instead of local tax dollars to make this town run smoothly. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Daniel. Doing a good job with that. Ladies and gentlemen, I also would like to advise you that going forth, our public meetings will now start at 7 o'clock. So between the 3 meetings that we have each and every month, they all are in sync now. The 2 work meetings at 7 o'clock and our public meeting at 7 o'clock. We deduced that this would be more productive for our council and for our residents also. There's times in work meetings where we go to 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and for people who have to get up 4:30, 5 o'clock the next morning, it's impractical. So at least by starting a half hour earlier, they get home a half hour earlier, no matter what the outcome of the length of the meeting is. And that was the thought behind changing it. Okay, with that said, I think we can move on to our public hearing. A motion to open it to the public?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor? Anyone from the public cares to speak? Mrs. Delaney will tell you how to do it.
Okay, before I open up the lines, I do have 2 submissions for myself to read into the public record. The first is from an Anthony Gadaletta, and he states, I have known Mr. Fasolo since I was a high school student back at Elmwood Park Memorial High School. He was my history teacher during my senior year. He's one of the kindest people I know and always made learning interesting and engaging to me and our class. He was one of my favorite teachers during my academic years at Elmwood Park. I graduated in 2017. Now that I am a third-year college student at Ramapo College of New Jersey, as a communication arts major with a concentration in journalism, he has been a mentor to me in helping to contribute to a recent academic endeavor where I highlighted the town and his position as a town councilman. I am proud to see his many accomplishments in helping our community grow and prosper. With the recent coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic, coming together has never been more crucial, and we will get through this. This too shall pass. Thank you for all that you have done for me in pushing me to strive to academic success and everything that you have done and continue to do for our town of Elmwood Park. Once a crusader, always a crusader.
Excellent.
Okay.
Mr. Fasolo, would you like to say something to that?
Hopefully in what's maybe going to be a long political career, that'll be one of the many good things said about me by a future journalist or a journalist. Thank you.
Well-deserved, I'm sure. I know teachers are probably like council people and mayors. We don't get too many compliments, and when they do come along, we got to cherish them. Ms. Delaney.
Okay. And then moving.
One of his papers that I'm helping him with is about Elmwood Park's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we've been working on that this weekend. So I'd like to thank him for his comments.
Excellent. Moving along.
Okay, and then I also have a submission from Mr. Freitag. He has submitted 7 questions. The first is in relation to R-176-20, Ordinance 20-15, traffic stop sign distance. The 5th paragraph has whereas misspelled, which was corrected, Mr. Freitag, thank you. And then also, is the word permit correct? Should the distance be 25 feet or 20 feet as mentioned in the 8th paragraph?
Would you answer that? First, thank you for picking up the whereas and the A and the E. I guess when I reread the ordinance, sometimes the eye does tricks on you and you just miss certain things. With regards to the word permit, it should be permitting, which is a reference to the statute itself. The statute does reference a 25-foot with regards to certain aspects. However, the exception is the stop sign issue, and that's where the 20 feet is actually in effect.
That will dominate, Sal?
Yes.
Okay.
The 20 feet dominates. The 25 feet is what is normally would be for the distance from crosswalks to the corner and so forth. But the distance from the stop sign which is, the stop sign is usually between 5 to 10 feet prior to the corner and the crosswalk, the 20 feet applies from the stop sign.
Okay, so actually it's 25 because of
Yes,
that 5 foot
it technically
from
is.
the center line, I guess, of the intersection.
Absolutely, correct. But we're
curb
looking
line.
at it from the stop sign itself,
All right.
the 20 feet,
All right.
which the stop sign is usually, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, the stop sign is usually about 5 feet beyond
Yeah,
the actual corner,
Correct.
okay? So that gives you the 25-foot required by the statute.
all right. And the reason for that is otherwise it would be smack dab in the sidewalk.
Yeah, well, of course.
So we'd have to pull it back. Mr. Freitag, are you satisfied with that?
Well, he's,
Oh.
they're muted right now.
Oh, they're
So we'll
muted?
see- Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Ingraffia, I need
Yeah.
to change permit to
Permit to
permitted,
permitted.
and then I don't need to change anything else?
No, nothing.
Okay. Second question is related to R-177-20, which was already discussed, but I will read it into the record as it was submitted. As I recall from prior meetings, it was discussed that it would also apply to other entities such as PSE&G who are repaving roads as a result of utility work, that a review of curbing by a borough-assigned representative would be completed, and if needed, curbing would be replaced at the expense of the borough. The ordinance does not state this.
We already discussed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Earlier,
Yes.
so.
So
thank
question
you.
3 is related to R-182-20, purchase of wheel load weighers for $10,190. I assume that these are going to be used on local highways. Do most police departments in the area perform these vehicle stops? How many police officers are going to be assigned to this task? How often? Is there enough staff? Will the monies for this purpose come from another source? So do you want me to go question by question? Okay.
So regarding this questions, it will be used mostly on local highways, but not necessarily. We could use them on any roadway where we feel that there are trucks that we want to weigh. The second part is, do most police departments in the area perform these vehicle stops? Generally, no. These are usually done by state police and county sheriff's departments or county police departments. But we happen to have several officers that have this specialized training, so why not? We're gonna take advantage of it, and we're gonna make our roads safer because this identifies trucks that are overweight, which are a death trap to the motoring public. How many police officers are going to be assigned to work this task? That depends, case by case. I'm not comfortable answering that right now. How often? As often as we deem necessary. I'll discuss that with my traffic division, where the majority of the trained officers work out of. Is there enough staff? There's never enough staff, but we'll get it done. Will the monies for this purpose come from another source? I'm not sure what that means. To purchase the equipment or to run the details? I don't understand that, so I'm not going to answer that.
Mr. Freitag,
Um,
back to him.
Well, I'll finish reading his statement for the record, and then I'll open the lines. So if no one else has anything to say in reference to question number 3, I'll go on to number 4.
Yeah, just let me say,
Okay.
what I think he was referring to, as far as the cost of the weigh machine, Mr. Foligno, I think, we'll see. Go ahead.
The monies are coming from our bond ordinance from earlier this year. It was ordinance number 20-04, I believe, and that's where the money's coming from.
For
So
both
it was-
items.
Yes, and it was incorporated into into that from our budget earlier this year.
Okay.
Okay, question 4 is R-183-20, mini pumper change order. What specifically is this $3,668 change order for?
Mr. Foligno, can you answer that?
Yes, Mayor. The $3,668 purchase is for a winch add-on as per Chief Shavasta.
Thank you.
Question 5 is in relation to R-186-20, payment for crossing guards. Do all not qualify for unemployment? And if so, is it required that they obtain a letter stating such from unemployment?
Mr. Foligno?
Yes, Mayor. No, they do not all qualify for unemployment. There are numerous factors that are considered when that's considered by the state. Some of the factors are 20 weeks of continuous pay of $200 per week or more. If a person is collecting a pension, they do not qualify. I spoke to payroll today. We now have 8 of the 18 guards that have qualified, and there is no reason to get a letter because payroll is aware of who qualifies and who doesn't, because the borough is required to reimburse the state for the unemployment benefits, so a letter is not necessary. So we know who qualifies and who doesn't.
Thank you. Moving on.
6th question is in relation to R-190-20, emergency sewer issue/repair. Was this repair done in conjunction with the Elmwood Park DPW personnel? Why was it so costly at $68,249.95?
Well, I'll open up with what I saw. I visited the site 3 times when it first was brought to my attention, in between, and then the finale, and the depth of the problem was 14 feet. And soon as the deeper you go, the more costly it gets, because they have to put up boxes to protect the workers. Everything slows down to a crawl. You have machines there that are just waiting and anticipating the worst, and they have to be there, otherwise it just prolongs the job, which is something on the corner, that specific corner with all that traffic, we did not want to have. Mr. Foligno?
Yes, Mayor. To add to that, the DPW was involved at the start of this when they identified that it was deeper than 6 feet. The expertise of the Colonelli crew was called in because our men are not prepared to go beyond that. This was a 3-day job, and it was over a Sunday, which the crews get time and a half, the crews that we hired. So that is also added to why it was so costly.
Thank you. Moving on.
Okay, and the last question is in relation to R-191-20, emergency sewer improvements for $155,000. Why so costly?
Mr. Foligno?
Yes, Mayor. The arm on one of the pumps broke, according to our Public Works Superintendent. The repair would have taken too long because the parts were not available. In addition to that, he indicated that the cost of the repair was almost as much as the cost of a new pump.
Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, that concludes the reading of the submissions that were received prior to tonight's meeting. So at this time, I will be unmuting the lines for anyone else that wishes to speak from the public.
All participants are unmuted.
Would anyone like to speak at this time?
Jeffrey Freitag, 35 Hillman Drive.
Yes, Jeff.
Hello?
Yes, Jeff. Please speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for your response. That's all.
Mr. Freitag, please.
No, I just said Jeffrey Freitag. Thank you for your responses, that's all.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else care to speak? Does anyone else from the public care to speak? If not, I will
Participants
close the public session.
unmute themselves.
Motion to close the public session? You with me, Daniel?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to close the public
All
session.
right, first by Ingwe, I need a second. If the council members can unmute their lines so that we can.
So moved.
Okay, so second by Fasolo.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to say? No? We're good?
No, I just want to take a minute to thank everybody who's working at the schools. They've done a really good job so far of keeping education going for our students.
Anyone else care to speak? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're here. I can actually say, withstanding the restrictions that have been put upon us, this municipality hasn't missed a beat, and it will continue that way. Stay healthy, and God bless you. Good night. Motion to adjourn, please? All in favor? Good night.